All right. Welcome, everybody. It is so good to see all of you here today. We're just giving Zoom a moment to welcome everybody into this space, and we are delighted and honored that you are spending this time with us. Um, this is your Nature Journal workshop, our weekly discussion and exploration of all things nature journaling. Today we have an amazing guest with us. We're going to be in conversation with Clare Walker Leslie, and I'll be introducing her in just a moment. Before we do, we want to let everybody know that there are opportunities to connect with a community of nature journalers near you. And it's a wonderful activity to do by yourself. It is also a wonderful thing to do in a community of other people. We have a Nature Journal Club community calendar where anybody who's teaching nature journaling classes anywhere, you let us know what is happening where, and we put it on there. And so we can share that with everybody who wants to find it. Now, if you're just tuning in with us, this is a really, really exciting day on the Nature Journal workshop. I am honored to be in conversation today with one of my greatest mentors in a foundational skill that has changed my life. It is Clare Walker Leslie, who you may have even coined the term nature journaling, or at least this sort of, but you're definitely the person who has brought it to, I think, worldwide attention as a foundational tool for engaging with the world around us. And you are incredibly, you know, generous and passionate in your writings, in your teachings. You've got a lifetime of doing this. When I was a struggling little dyslexic boy in San Francisco.
And I knew Jack then.
Yeah. No, well, this is before you knew me. I knew your book. I knew your book. And so I got a hold of this. Now being dyslexic, I had a really hard time reading anything. But what I did do is I read this because kind of keeping a little notebook and wandering through the forest after um, after school was for me an incredible way of kind of grounding myself and healing myself. It's hard to find the book on the shelf because there's just too many volumes, right? Um, the
I know I can't find it.
um, the but I got a hold of this and realized, like, oh my gosh, there's somebody who gets me. And this gave me this book launched me into um my own life of nature journaling. Since that time, Claire has published many, many books on the subject, and we're going to be taking a look at, do you have, we've got that one there. We got you are doing tools for learning. Because this really framed how I thought about it. I mean, look at the title, everybody, Nature Journal, a tool for learning. And that still is fundamentally how I think about it. And had it not been for this book, I don't think I'd be doing this. And I then got to meet you at the Teton Science School a few years later. I'm sorry, I don't know why Zoom keeps giving me
Yeah.
these little hand signals and things, but so met you in person, and it was for me then, and you still are. It's kind of like being in the presence of Elvis. It is just so incredible to get to hang out with you. And today we get to kind of pick your brain about what is inspiring you now, your own process, your life, your work, and this your current book, um, which I have also read. And again, that's a big
Me
deal. You
too. I
feel
read
like,
it too.
yeah, there's a bunch of books back there, but I haven't read most of them. It's potential energy. But this one, I dug into, and we'll have a chance to kind of discuss this. And uh, Clare Walker Leslie, we are just delighted to to be with you today.
Jack and I have had a lot of these conversations, and so I could tear into this for hours. But I think it might be helpful, Jack, if people know where I've come from, um, because I got a lot of help along the way, and particularly my publishers. When asked to do the nature drawing book, I had just started teaching at our Cambridge Adult Education Center a series of workshops on how to draw plants, birds, animals, and landscapes, learning myself. Because, as Jack knows, I came to all of this as a musician. I went to college in Minnesota, Carleton, 64, 68. I didn't know nothing about nature. I was never outside. Um, but in retrospect, 15 books later, I realize that, and this is a very important thing, and Jack, you have it. It takes discipline and it takes passion. Look at the background in both of our rooms. We're packed with books. These books are my teachers.
Yeah.
And I majored in art history. And when asked to do the book, Nature Drawing, A Tool for Learning, it was with Prentice Hall. The editor in 1978 said to me, "We want you to do a book on how to draw nature." And I said, "I don't know how to write a book." And her comment was, "You went to college, didn't you?" And so these books have been easy peasy because I have the passion.
Yeah.
And I'm also in a niche. But what I've talked with Jack about, and I want to really push all of you into this, what I am teaching is not new. This goes back to the whole history of science. And if you want to know, what Aristotle was up to, what the cave paintings were up to, a lot of my books, and the one I recommend that you get is this one called The Explorer's Sketchbooks, because the art of discovery and adventure. And I said to Jack, I have had this wonderful support of Jane Goodall, E.O. Wilson, Roger Torrey Peterson, Robert Bateman, who said that pictures say 1,000 words.
And John Busby is also a personal friend of yours and journaling companion.
Oh, well, Jack, again, part of me, I'm an old lady now. I bleed for what's going on now. I don't do Facebook. I don't do Instagram. And back when I was really, and I won't go into all the personal reasons why I went from being a musician and an abstract artist and, sleeping all day and up all night and, all that 60s stuff. Married a guy who was a hiker. And I transitioned into wanting to learn about nature, but I didn't know. I mean, Jack grew up as the guy running around looking at stuff. I didn't know an oak leaf from a maple leaf, but I developed this passion. And I remember asking Roger Peterson, can I study with you? And he said, "Well, I don't teach." So for a lot of reasons, I discovered this guy called Eric Enyon in England, who back then, everybody, you did this by telephone or letter, mostly letter. Eric Enyon was in his late 70s. He said, "Come on over, stay with me, and take my week-long course in wildlife drawing." Nature Drawing, A Tool for Learning is verbatim from what I learned from Eric Enyon. I went over in 1976. David and I were barely married, and I said, "Bye-bye," off I went. And that's the way it was. And then I went on and studied. Yes, Jack. Lived in their house, free of charge, and gobbled everything up from John Busby. What I learned from John, and I'm saying this to all of you, the Brits, the Europeans, draw nature outside. They are field artists, and they make fun of Americans who have to have all the right paints and the paper and the right equipment before they go out. And so that is really my modus. You may, as I did, lose your paper over the cliffs. You'll have a gannet fly over you and, poop all over your paint. The point being, and Jack knows this because we've done it together, it's the process is what's important,
Yeah.
not
Yep.
the product. And so I have gone to Sweden and studied really with Gunnar Brusowitz, who set me up. I don't know, Jack. I've been struggling months trying to figure out where the origins of nature journaling came from, except digging around for you, there's this book.
Oh, yeah, that's one of those ones on
Title,
the shelf there. Yes.
well, the title is Nature Journaling.
Yeah.
Um, and I did this book with a wonderful science educator. Um, we are educators. Jack, you're an educator. I am an educator. I know how to convert people into this. And why am I still doing it? I feel like we're in much need of people connecting. We're losing it. And the art is the art of writing. Oh, sorry about my telephone.
No worries.
I've had, at the point where this was very unique, editors, publishers who've come to me. And I started doing a book a year. And you can see my background is art history. I feel it's really important to know who came before you, the Charles Darwins, the Louis Agassiz Fuertes, the Roger Tory Petersons, and the Europeans. And so for 10 years, every year I would go over to Scotland. And Jack, aren't you talking about going to seabirds?
It's been on my do list for
Yeah,
the last few years, but the times that it has been for the last few years, there's something that has blocked my calendar for it.
of
But
course.
so for folks who don't know about this, there is this European community of amazing nature artists, and they spend time out on these wind-blown bluffs,
Yes.
drawing seabirds together in warm jackets, and then kind of huddle up and share ideas and techniques. And it's apparently like this inspirational think tank. It's the Seabird Week. I wanted to do this for years now, and every time, like, I just recently got their invitation that said, "Would you like to apply?"
Baron. Yeah. No, I've done it for 10 years.
Ah.
It's a humiliating experience because they're all really good. And we go out on the Bass Rock and sit there for 7 hours. And you take your thermoses of tea and hope that, you get back alive.
Mhm.
Um, so I have been very fortunate in my training is European.
Ah.
Um, the other thing that I am finding, and I started really noticing this the first day and actually got to know John Fitzpatrick, who went on to become the president of Cornell um, ornithology. What's it called? I'm drawing a blank. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology was a student at Harvard, and I was sitting in on these Harvard classes, and he didn't have a car, and so we went off birding together. And I discovered with all these people, Jack included, passion and curiosity
Uh,
is what keeps you going. To ring this around, yes, I've done 15 books. I sort of have them all piled here, the cat's on top of them. The other thing to mention is I don't have a studio. This is, oops, that's the cat. That's the living room. That's my table where the granddaughters were playing yesterday. So I can be cooking dinner and writing another sentence. I can be taking care of my husband and do another bird. To me, and my husband saw this, and everybody saw, Jack, it's you too. There's no separation between me and what I do. And this now is just started journal number 60. I have clocked journal number 59, the passing of my husband.
ah.
And I'm confronting now, crazy. People say, oh, Claire, you go on and do another book. I'm confronting doing a book on grief
Mm, mm.
because the night he died, I looked out the window and there was the moon on its side, looking like a cradle.
Oh,
And it's hard. It's really hard to go through this loss. If any of you know what loss is, you know. But what's kept me going is this solace of nature and also family, um, friends, Netflix, an extra glass of wine. So, um, and but I know it's hard for those of you today who would like to write a book. I started out in the 70s in a niche. Yes, I did define nature journaling.
Yeah.
Yes, I am very excited and proud of other people teaching it.
Well,
Yes, I want to know
you
what
are,
you're teaching. Huh?
you're, I sort of think of, like in martial arts, people kind of track their lineage. I studied under this person who studied under this person who studied under this person. So and when I kind of do that with you, like I have been able to inspire some people, and they are then under the lineage of Clare Walker Leslie, who's then under the lineage of, you're talking about this other community people, but the ability to share this gift with other people, to share opportunities to teach it. Um, you really stirred this up and brought it broadly to so many people, including myself. That
But Jack, a lot of that, and you held up this book. I was visiting one of these seabird incredible artists. I'm still in front with him. I visited him in Scotland and he held up that book in
yeah,
front of his students and said, this is what got him going. So I have great thanks for my publishers and for my editors. My editors have become very close friends.
mm,
We do these books
yeah,
together, particularly the How to Look at a Bird. This was their size. It's my drawings, and maybe I have to say to people that my grandfather was a political cartoonist for the old Life magazines, and he drew very well. And as a little kid, I used to copy his drawings. I highly recommend, and Jack, I've said this to you, find artists whose work you like and copy them. This is
yeah,
how I started. When I didn't have a teacher, I copied Beatrix Potter, I copied Andy Wyeth, I copy Rembrandt always. But essential that underneath your drawing, you say who you've copied. I have had students who've showed me their drawings and I go, oh my God, that's really good, knowing it was not theirs. But this is how you learn. In art school, you did the same copying. And the
mhm,
other thing, Jack, because I'm art school trained, we do those wonderful blind contours, modified contours, gesture sketches, um, diagrammatic drawings. And I'm now currently teaching at Mount Auburn Cemetery a series that's filled with a waiting list. People are hungry to learn how to do this stuff, and the art schools don't teach it. So,
yeah.
Jack, no wonder you're, successful. People want to learn this stuff, and they ain't out there.
Uh,
Uh, when I was
the-
teaching it, and when I was teaching the Mass College of Art, people were learning abstraction. They weren't learning technique, and I learned technique from my grandfather. I also learned it from John Busby. And yes, Jack, these guys, John Busby, Eric Enyon, Gunnar Bruzovitz, Lars Johnson, became personal friends. They would meet my husband. They would prefer him to me. I mean, David was in this, like it or not. My kid sat in my lap while I drew. I mean, you're in the same place. It's got to be part of your family.
mm.
Um, and this is part of my family.
And so I just want to kind of reflect on a few things here that so part of what you're showing us is that um I want to kind of emphasize like your focus on being outside, and you talked about the importance of the process. So not the product, what ends up in the book, um, but that process of being outside and paying attention and paying attention and paying attention. And it's even on the cover of the book, it's learning, right? That's your goal. And another thing that you're pointing out is that these skills, they are learnable. It's not some magical gift, but they're learnable. We can teach people how to do these things.
But Jack, it takes, I'm going to interrupt because I'm bringing in my years and years and years of playing the cello, practicing 3 hours a day. Yo-Yo Ma was asked, Mr. Ma, how come you're so good? It's practice.
Right.
And it's hard in our daily lives. Students ask me over and over and over again, I don't know, how can I find the time? It's hard. It is hard. And so it is a discipline. And you do this rather than, I used to knit, I used to crochet, I used to cook. This is what I do instead. But I do want to say, take time to learn to read. You don't need to necessarily draw all the time, but to know your history of those who protected Yellowstone. They were the painters. To understand that you have a huge history behind what you're doing. This is not new. And the whole field, Jack, because somebody emailed me yesterday and said they met you. Oh, yes, Linda Feltner was a wonderful artist teaching out at the Tucson Museum. Met you at the Guild of Scientific Illustrators. There's a whole field of scientific illustrators as well, This is not just outdoors. And I say there are many different parts. There's the awe, there's the wonder, there's the curiosity. What is it? Draw it as you know it is from the field, and then draw it again from a field guide. I heavily draw from field guides.
I do too.
And
Yeah.
I draw from Jack's. I draw from yours.
And
Uh,
I draw from yours. And in this whole conversation, you're talking about like the importance of discipline and practice and these sorts of things. And then some people might think of this then as feeling more kind of like a distant goal, but I don't know of anybody who is more who is better at giving people permission to just make marks on your paper and don't get wrapped around the axle of like I remember when we taught that class together in Point Reyes, something that I had come and done in the sort of kind of anal retentive thing, and you came up and you had to kind of shake that loose from people to kind of like say like, and don't worry about sort of there isn't some way that it is supposed to look. You really gave people permission to start wherever they are and to make those
right.
marks. And
Right.
that's I think a huge thing that we learn that I've learned from you and many people have learned from you is that permission to just dive into this and be a maker and put those marks down on paper. And if we are worried about I have to be a scientific illustrator in order to do this, then I kind of like, well, that's not me, and then I stop.
Well, as you know, and this is the wonderful thing, Jack, about what you're doing. There are many different ways of doing nature journaling.
Right.
There are the scientist artists who spend 10 hours on the drawing. I teach nature journaling to first, second, third, fourth, all the way up to adults. They're not interested in becoming good artists. They want to become good observers. So the trick in my, time, date, place, weather journal page that is that under this funny little circle with 6 lines, you write ladybug. And then people go, oh, you saw ladybug, So we're having to define it in a lot of different ways, and a lot of it has to do with intention. And I don't want to waste time showing you my drawings. In the how to draw a bird, because I had 200 drawings to do, not all of them are perfectionist. I wanted to have them be loose enough for people to say, oh, I can do that. But then I do have a page of woodpeckers that's pretty carefully done. So
Is
the
it okay if I
analogy,
could I put that book underneath the document camera here to show people?
well, you can do whatever you want.
Well, y'all want to see that? Want to take a look inside the book? We got some thumbs up. All right. So what I'm
Well,
gonna
see
do,
yeah, that's a warbler page.
so I'm going to make my screen big and yours make you disappear for a moment. But we'll be bringing Claire or face back in just a moment. But here's my computer not wanting to go to that. Let's try this. Here is and we'll focus. No, hold on. What is going on? Try that again. There is right. So this is how to look at a bird. And let's just sort of see some of, whoa, there's an incredible time delay. I'm having something wrong with, let me try this one more time. I'm going to stop my video. I'm going to start it again. No, it still thinks I'm way back there. We've got some kind of technical difficulty going on here. So I am going to,
Just have people go out and buy the book.
yeah, folks, that's what you wanted to go get this book. So actually, we'll try it the old-fashioned way of just sort of holding it up, and there is what you've got in here are there's I just saw a woodpecker page, right? So you see a number of Claire's drawings of ducks flying by, of the pigeons landing on the roof, of kind of looking into the foliage at the flock of birds. There are so some of these are just sort of done directly with a pen and then hitting that with a colored pencil. Um, and and done. These really have the feeling for these birds. There's a difference that in kind of what you see when you're looking at somebody's sketches, and they've just only worked their whole life from photographs.
Hey,
Um,
Jack, I'm gonna interrupt because these were done in so many different ways that may be helpful. Um, this one, I'm gonna show you. I am a painter. I'm having an exhibition of my paintings right now, watercolors. But I won't teach painting because it's a very complicated subject. So that's one style. Then here's another style. A friend went to Prospect Park in Brooklyn and kept on calling me and telling me the birds she was seeing. And these are just quick sketches. You notice that there's writing underneath, sort of
yeah,
explaining
yeah.
what the birds are. But then I went out to my editors and they said, well, okay, we want you to do this, 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 and this, and this. And so for 10 hours, I stood drawing all the hummingbirds. But these were
Uh,
from field guides. I did not make these up. These are nuthatches. I did not make these up. These are from field guides. Yes, I heavily, heavily, heavily rely on a field guide. And then my favorite drawing that started the book, this is the drawing that started the book. And
uh,
Jack, you'll understand. I was over visiting some friends in a retirement community. They look out onto a bird feeder, and the whole time we were talking about the birds at the feeder. My comment here in this New Yorker Ross Chast cartoon was watching birds is much more fun than watching TV. And
uh,
that started the book. The other reason for the book was David and I were living up in Vermont during COVID. It was a really hard time for so many people. And I would go down to our local meat corner, meat market, the local market meat counter, and get talking to people, locals, farmers, whatever they were, about the birds at their feeders. And people immediately lit up. I had this experience just 2 days ago. I was walking through Harvard Yard, um, misty, moisty afternoon. There were students there, and there were two students looking up in a tree at a bird. And I came up to them and I said, "Do you know what that is?" And they said, "No, no, we don't know what it is." I said, "It's a Cooper's hawk." And they said, "There's a hawk here?" They got completely excited. And I told them the whole story about Cooper's hawks in the city. And then I started talking. I don't know whether you have them, but these rat poison boxes that are killing our raptors.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and the Cooper's hawk lifted off and flew right past them, winking its red eye. And these students were completely converted. So that to me
That's their
is the
spark bird. The
a
spark bird.
spark bird, Jack. That's the word. You've seen the Orion book. Spark birds. This is what got Roger Tory Peterson
Yeah.
going, and this is what got me going. Spark birds. And so I'm blabbering around. I mean, Jack and I could sit for hours. I have worked with Jane Goodall, and what, she's 92, she's still going. So we surround us with people who also have these curiosities and excitement. I mean, E.O. Wilson, Ed Wilson, you know who he was. When
Yeah.
he found out what I was doing and he wrote the foreword to Keeping a Nature Journal, he started blabbing. The sad thing is that undergraduates, graduates, scientists are in the labs. They're not outside anymore.
Mhm.
So, you know, you are so important in what you're doing, which is pushing a movement that in many ways is dying out. And it must not, because we need this connection with nature um, if we are going to keep this planet going.
Yeah.
So,
And that goes two different ways. We need nature to keep us sane.
right.
There's now a huge body of research looking at the sort of the impact of being in the presence of wild things on
Yes,
our on our mind, on our psyche, on our health. You know, if you have a hospital room and it looks out on a tree, you need less pain medication than the person whose window looks out on a wall.
exactly.
Kids with who are like the problem kids in class, you bring them out to an outdoor school and they are the stars,
Yes.
right? And so we need nature and nature needs us. We as a species have such an incredible ability to impact systems around us.
And we are.
And we are. And if we abdicate responsibility for that, or just put it in the hands of somebody who has a financial dog in the fight, you know, something to extract from it, nature will lose and disappear. And so we need to have people who are advocates for
Right.
nature.
Right.
So nature needs us. We need nature. It's no longer a situation where if we just, if I kind of sit back, nature is going to take care of itself because of our ability to impact systems. So,
And Jack, I would say, you know, I don't even know how old I am. I guess I'm 77. I've been doing this for over 50 years. Um, the planet has changed. When I started doing this in the early 70s, you know, we felt like there was the whole Earth catalog. There was, you know,
yep.
uh, Earth Day. We were able to save. And the bottom line, and I'll be honest, the bottom line with all I am doing is getting people feeling responsibility for action and protection. And once
Yes.
you've drawn something, you care about it.
Mm.
Uh, and you know, this is yes, it's fun to get people out in a craft and, you know, the Sunday painters and enjoying their, you know, little holiday. I take this very seriously, what, you know, you and I are doing, and I will probably be buried in a underground with a pencil in my hand. You know, it's um
We're
whether
gonna have to throw a few extra sketchbooks in there as well.
I know I got a long way to go, and I don't, you know, I know all the people who first got me going. I don't know whether you knew Don Stokes, the Stokes Nature Guide.
I've got all the books, and I also love the illustrations in those. But where he would have these diagrams of, like, here are the postures of the woodpecker, that means this. Here are the postures
Yes.
of the mallard duck, that means this. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's not just like looking at the shape of the bird and identifying it. They're doing all these tricks in front of us. Those
Yeah.
are glorious.
Well,
You knew the
he would
Stoke?
go, we went out together in the Audubon sanctuaries. He would write and I would draw. And we were real nerds. We didn't know
Yeah,
what we were looking at. And then I was asked to do the back page of the Audubon newsletter that came out every, every other month. And that's how I learned. But I learned from Don, I learned from
mhm.
there was a chain of people I learned from. And so I have a lot of humility. I'm not doing this
Yeah,
alone,
that's right.
Jack. This is a community. And I I I took care of my husband. He passed here. It's been really hard. We are coming up Sunday to his memorial. I could not have done this alone. And all of you who have lost family members, it's hard and you can't do it alone. We can't save this planet alone. I just took my granddaughters yesterday down to Harvard to the museum and watched this video on the melting ice in the Arctic and the Antarctic. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know what is down the road, and I'm not going to get into politics, but I'm terrified. And if Taylor Swift can get people registered to vote, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I'm I'm a fan of Taylor Swift's. You know why? She is so damned disciplined and she
She
knows her stuff.
works really hard. My hadn't paid a lot of attention to her, but my two daughters were crazy about Taylor Swift. So I started kind of paying into it. Then we sat down together and watched a documentary about her. And I came away from that going like, okay, I get it now. I get
I
it
do
now.
too,
Yeah.
Jay.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, that is commitment. That is commitment to craft, and some really and I actually, she's somebody in a public figure that I would then go like to say, my daughter's like, you want to have her as a role model? I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, yeah. And we got, you're a role model, Jack, your hair's going white doing all of this.
I make it look good. Yeah. The but this point that you raise about us being in a community together and needing that you developed these skills from a community of people who generously shared this with you, and then you are passing that on to other people like me, and and the rest of your students. We also need that community as a community of people working together with scientists, with artists,
Yeah,
to help people connect with this world and to be motivated to do something together to protect it.
right.
There's so much. If I look at say a partisan newscast, and they're on the right and they're on the left, there are all these things being done to build walls between us, to drive wedges between
Right.
us, to get us to identify as like, I'm not them, they're not us.
Right. Right. And that's the wonderful thing. I'm just going to interject that caused me to do this book, that birds are a unifier
Birds are, yep.
over the meat counter. I mean, I don't know the politics of these country folk. But their eyes would glow, their face would get ruddy, they would get excited about, the finches at their feeder. And the thing I keep on saying is you can't talk about politics, you can't talk about religion, you can't talk about gender, you can't talk about race, you can't talk about abortion, you can't blah, 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 blah. But everybody can talk about birds.
Yeah.
I do want to say another person I want to really commend was my father.
Hmm.
He was an incredible teacher. He was not a researcher, but I had a really hard time at college. I was not, maybe I was dyslexic, Jack, but I was I just couldn't handle the academics of Carleton College. And I would come home and go to his classes and sit and listen. And he was a spark. He was a spark. And now I go back as a VIP to my college and these faculty cocktail parties in my honor. And they say, I know you had a hard time here, but you learn to write. I was asked to do that nature drawing book in 1978, and I said, sure, no big deal. Wrote it, while I was pregnant. Actually, the manuscript was bigger than my son. So I, I,
This is
I
this is I'm gonna this was Claire when writing the book.
down below was by that T was my son, who's now 44. Yikes. Um, and I had the silliness, Jack, you'll understand this. I had the silliness to think I could take my journal to the labor and delivery room and draw the whole thing.
Oh,
It,
that's great.
it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Um, but I draw constantly, absolutely constantly. And, you
Mhm.
know, uh, but I'm not saying anybody else should. This is, this is our way. But the point again, Jack, I want to make is you don't have to go to Yosemite to see
Sure.
nature. You can walk down your sidewalk. I mean, I was just out on a walk seeing snowdrops coming up in people's front yards.
Yeah, as I look through this book, there are I'll show you my favorite um my favorite little scene. I had this dog-eared, and why is this book should actually naturally open to this page. But a bunch of these sort of the backgrounds in here, you're in urban to suburban landscapes. You're looking out the back of the house. You're seeing nature where you are. And oh, I'm just going to share, like, this just makes me so happy. And Ray Bonto, if you're watching this is for you. Look at this. All right, these studies of pigeons and
Oh,
pigeons in the snow. Um, Wherever you are, there's something wonderful going on if you can slow yourself down enough to notice the wonder of what is happening before us, right?
well, that pigeon thing, and I actually want to jump to squirrels. The pigeon thing, I went and read a lot about pigeons. They're pretty interesting. They do all this courtship stuff. And what's very cool is around Valentine's Day, you can see them really mating. That's so cool. Squirrels, I don't know about your California squirrels, but our squirrels, and I read about this, on the winter solstice, they start mating. So you can see things, get curious, and then begin to read about them. I do want to say, this was another one of my books that was I was asked to do several of my journals before Jack was born. Um, this one came out in 1987, and it's basically I can't, sorry, I can't have you see it. But there I am with a child on my
Oh,
back. Oh, she's
yeah.
now 9. Um, I devised this writing and drawing, and Jack, I don't know where. I mean, if you get into the origins, I've been scratching my head. I think the term nature journaling, I wrote that book with a science educator, and um the foreword is by E.O. Wilson, and I think maybe collectively we came up with the term nature journaling because the Europeans don't use it.
Hmm.
The closest person to keeping a nature journal was Gunnar Bruzovitz. He called himself a nature reporter, and I think that is what I would tell you I am as a nature reporter. I wish you'd known Gunnar. He had done 60 books, great Swede. He was a friend of the king. He illustrated the Nobel Peace Prize awards, and he took me into his house. I mean, you can't
Uh,
have this happen
those,
these days.
those his sketches, his
Ah,
are I don't want to have to kind of try to pull one off the shelf back there, but I
well,
was first introduced something that you did in this book. So Claire put a bunch of examples of sketches and paintings by different people in them, and I bet I can find his. Yeah. Oh, there's.
well, it required all of you. You have to go get Gunnar Brusovitz. Um,
Yeah.
and oh, Jack, yes, for the nature drawing book and the art of field sketching, one big reason for its popularity, because I majored in art history, I don't tell people how I want them to draw. I show them how Degas drew, how Rembrandt drew,
Yeah.
how Gunnar Brusovitz drew, how Busby drew. So they're illustrations throughout both of these books from art museums.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 that's Gunnar. Um, he constantly had a cigar in his mouth, and when they came to Vermont, he even smoked in our house, which David didn't like, but the place smelled so much of mouse pee that he let him smoke the cigar. I mean, they're wonderful stories about these guys. And I drew right beside them.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so
part of
it's
what I
been
want
fun.
part of what I want people to kind of take from that is that um Clare Walker Leslie is the Clare Walker Leslie that she is now because of the generous contributions of all this community to her brain. And we all have the capacity to be just as generous with other people. You don't know how the things that you do are going to impact people down the line.
Right.
And so the more that we can, going back to this idea of the community and working together, the more that we can find in ourselves our own generosity of spirit. And whether that's sharing a skill, sharing your home with somebody, these you you don't there's the community above you that is inspiring you, and then there's the community who you are inspiring as well, that all of us also have an opportunity to reach and inspire other people by our deeds and our actions and the work that we do. And
Yeah, yeah.
yes, please.
Well, um, Jack, you're a mentor. People are watching you. Why are you doing what you're doing? Your kids are too. I find that when I walk into a classroom, and this is the engagement of Jane Goodall too. I am not pretentious. I think Taylor Swift is the same, to use an example. I stand for what I'm doing. And people immediately want to know what I'm doing because you make it available. Um, when I am doing a workshop, I don't draw in front of the drawing. I draw off to the side so people can see what I'm doing. It's a funny drawing. It's often, off kilter. With kids particularly, I will have the drawing page in front of me and I draw upside down to me. So people watching me draw, particularly blind contours, which Jack, you do blind contours, don't you?
They're absolute gold.
Yeah, they're so cool that when I do a drawing, I make it silly and, they say, oh, I can do that too. If Now here's our progression. And Jack, you spent years doing that, the wildlife this year in Nevadas. Those drawings were not done on the cuff.
So
Those,
that's right.
no. And so I say, if you want to do that kind of drawing, go for it. So what Jack and I are teaching is this scale, many, many different, and it's up to the individual. However, I have a block when I see somebody turning, there was a situation of a kid who could not draw a scallop shell, was completely off. And as soon as he did a blind contour, he got it. So
Mhm.
my point is you don't have to draw well, but you have to draw correctly.
Mhm. Mhm. And correctly, I would think, is to draw in such a way that gets you to really look at that phenomenon in front of you, to look again and again and again, to be able to, that we're using it to see and to learn. And if it
Yeah.
ends up being a pretty picture of that scallop, that's great. If it doesn't, that's great. But you learned something by that deep attention that you paid there.
And I do books to learn. One of my favorite books, and I didn't bring it out, was Nature All Year Long. I did for kids every month of the year what was going on in our backyard. And I did it because I wanted to know, what do caterpillars do in the wintertime? What do frogs do in the wintertime? I was just talking to my granddaughters about this yesterday. Cold-blooded animals don't hibernate. Um, so use your drawing as an opportunity to learn. And yes, I did a lot of the bird book on Google. The Cornell Lab has a fabulous site. I do have this wall of books, but I have to admit a lot of my research was on Google. Um, and and use this as an opportunity to, learn stuff. My journal has, in fact, a lot of writing in it about climate. And, we're having a very, very warm winter. Um, so
Last year
maybe,
was the warmest on record.
yes, yes. And I started this journal. This is my newest, number 60, by saying, to begin journal number 60, how leaving number 59 so hard as it held so much.
Mhm.
September 2022 to December 2023, and through David's passing, February 25th. So on December 21st, 2023, the winter solstice, the beginning of a new journal. And I love, Jack, my favorite thing about journals is the blank pages. You don't
Potential energy.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to be in them. I do put in my journals. This is a wonderful email from my lovely best editor, publisher now in Story about the book that we did together. The size was her idea. I was just down in New York City, and I did, little scraps of paper of drawings, got really into the Statue of Liberty. Ladies and gentlemen, learn about the Statue of Liberty. We're far from it right now. These were field drawings done in the car. I go birding with a
Oh, wait,
friend.
hold that one up again. That really puts me into place here. With
Well, this is praying paints, fast brush, little bottle of water, while eating a sandwich because he's driving around all the time. I did that. That's just the winter Plum Island beach. Here I am teaching people how to draw trees. I don't know if you can see any of this.
yes, yes. Why don't I'm going to minimize my screen again, so when you put something up there, it'll be twice as big. I'm going to remove the spotlight. Bam. You're now big.
Oh, okay. I also put in photographs. These are two people who asked me to go New Year's Day birding because they knew it was going to be a hard time for me. And then I had an exhibition of my paintings, and they're all on our floor. So I am putting photographs in my journal. Perhaps, you can see I have a lot of writing in my journal
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
it is a notebook.
Yeah.
Um, and
It's an extension, it's a direct extension of your brain and all the thinking that you do.
that's right. That's right. And I'm just looking to see, Jack, the notation on, because I'm very concerned about, we haven't had a winter here. The statistics. And anyway, and of course, I have to put my granddaughters in the little bit of snow we've had. But you're gonna laugh. Yesterday, went back and tried to write the number of books I've done, and I couldn't remember. So
Yeah, that you
was
do make it hard for yourself.
I know.
Yeah,
Was it
if you would just be a little bit less productive in your
I
lifetime,
know.
it would be easier to kind of keep track of that record.
It
And
is pretty funny.
yeah, um, the and putting those things that um, you know, part of your, the process of journaling as as your way of processing and healing from the death of David's death. Um, and putting in, what's going on with your grandchild and allowing yourself to be part of that book. Um, I've only recently, for a while, my books were kind of a rarefied, just sort of like nature things out there. And but the more that I kind of found that I can let myself into the pages of my own nature journaling was as my mother was dying, I sat by her side and drew with her.
Oh,
And then when she died, I sat by her side and drew with her.
yeah.
And my my brother thought it was didn't get it at all, right? And just thought that it was kind of ghoulish. Um, but for me, it was a really for me kind of opening up the pages of my journal and is my best way of being present in any situation.
Yeah.
And I now look back at those pages, and because I did that, um, my my experience of that moment in the moment was more powerful and deep. And my ability now to reflect on it has also grown because of that that attention. This
Absolutely. And you're going to have that permanently.
That's right.
In my journal of 1993, Jack, did exactly what you did. It brings tears to my eyes. With my mother's permission, I put her hand on my journal and I traced it. And then I did a drawing of her that to me means more to me than a photograph.
Yeah.
Um, and these are records. I mean, I have boxes of my journals. They're under our beds, and people say, well, they should go to the Smithsonian. Um, these are personal proving we existed, that we did these things. I'm going to show you a photograph of David. Let's see if I can do it. He was a cool dude. Yeah. You would have liked him, Jack.
Oh.
Uh, many good memories of him. He was not an artist. He totally didn't get what I was doing. But that was okay. How many years ago did your mother pass?
Well, I'm dyslexic, so keeping track of days is, but the team will help me out. And Chadwick can just help me out. 4 years. It's been 4 years.
And your father before her?
That's right. Father a few years before that. And yeah. Um, and it's interesting that sometimes it's these sort of moments when we kind of see um, we're reminded of just how short the mortal coil is, right?
Yeah.
That um, that motivates us to, in the time that we do have, to do the best we can, um, to 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 do our best, to be as kind as we can, to leave a if we are going to leave a mark, have it be a mark for the good.
Yeah.
Um, it was my grandmother's death that really motivated me to stop the job that I was doing, to quit my job, start working. I always wanted to kind of imagine myself kind of running around in the Sierra Nevada mountains making that field guide that you talked about.
Incredible.
And when she died, I was kind of leading up to that. I had a little bit of time to think about, what do I want my life to be about when I'm in that bed? And I would realize that I thought to myself, I would have been sitting there thinking, I really wished I made that book. And so quit my job and filled my backpack up with granola bars and paper. And for the next
Uh,
years, yep, that's what I did. And that was my grandmother's. She was sort of my artistic muse. She was a watercolorist and an oil painter. And whenever we'd visit her, we'd go sketching. And um, I think of that as her last gift to me, was the motivation to go, um, do what you really need to do in this sort of short time that you have.
yeah, I think maybe this is something for your participants to do. Um, I've done it with students, is to really sort of spend a little bit of meditation time, maybe writing time. Why are you doing what you're doing? And who influenced you? Um, I've actually done this on a circle and cut in four of what you were like as a child and your influences, what you were like as a high school kid and your influences, what you were like as an adult, your influences, and what you hope to be in your elder age. And I have a lot of humility for people, because when I was a high school kid, I was not doing none of this. I was indoors playing my cello all the time, and nature was boring. And my boyfriends were all these, dark, meditative, depressed artists. And when I met David, it was like, oh my God, he was this football Harvard jock. Why do we make the changes that we do? And for me, the word you use is spark. When I met this John Fitzpatrick guy, and when I met another friend and then one of my boyfriends who was outside canoeing and kayaking instead of in college, they were people who were alive.
Mm.
You're one of them, Jack. To hell with being dyslexic. You're curious, you're eager, you're kind, you're a mentor, and you're raising two kids who are great. I mean, I did the best I could. I made the big mistake to my kids saying, I don't care what you do, just make a difference. Um, and they're more in the, humanities side, but um, it's not easy. And I think it takes, I don't know if this next book is going to be on grief, but maybe I'm going to be in touch with you, Jack, again, and we'll talk about it, because I think it needs to be written. Because we don't face death well. This
Mm-mm.
is not a society that talks about end of life. Um, I feel lots of times I feel very alone. People sort of don't know how to confront, as you say. I mean, I see insects that have died. I see dead chipmunks. I see dead squirrels, dead birds. Um, Look at what's going on in Gaza. Thousands of people dying. And your reverence is really important. I am a Buddhist. I'm studying the insight meditation, and there's a lot of wisdom on, being here now and doing the best you can
Right.
with humility. And, you're doing that. Bless you. You're all over the place. I'm just like not going anywhere anymore.
Well, I'm a seed you planted, or
Well,
or
I am
watered.
back. Yeah, I
Um,
am back teaching a little bit now, but it was a hard year. And I am going over to Scotland this summer to see the seabird people. And then I'm going to Costa Rica. You're going to Tanzania, you
that's
lucky.
right.
When are you going?
That will be at the end of this summer. End of this summer. There's still some spaces available in that trip. The
Good.
and it
There. I drew a whole book worth of those animals. Fabulous.
Yeah. The first time I went to Tanzania, I didn't bring enough paper,
Yeah.
right? I ran out of I filled up my nature journal like that, and then um and so I always tell people that uh that they have to bring an extra sketchbook just in case. And
Yeah.
it's often necessary. Just
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I
that's
loved it because I didn't have to teach. I just drew all day long. And I needed to have cataract surgery and I needed to have hip replacement. And the doctor said, "Oh, just shake your cane at the lion." And the other doctor said, "So what if you see two moons?" It's a great place to go see animals.
yeah. Oh, and then if you're looking at a herd, there's twice as many. Um,
I saw twice as many. Yeah,
that's
no,
fantastic. That's working. That's good. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, they're funny stories along the way, Jack. We all have them. Um, so how much more time do we have?
Well, what we're about to do is, and that's actually provides us a very good segue. There's some folks in the community that would love to ask you a question, or be able to share perhaps an experience they had that connects with something that you said. Um, and we're just about to bounce into that now.
Perfect.
And so the way this works, folks, is that we're going to take a look at the gallery view. So if you have a question that you would like to ask, you can just put up your hand like this, and a veil will spot you, and then we can bring you into the meeting. You can also use the raise hand button, but sometimes people have a hard time finding that. Um, if you turn off your if you turn on your video, we'll be able to add you into the screen here, so it'd be the three of us in there. If not, we can have you as an audio voiceover without that. And if you don't feel comfortable having your picture on, this is being recorded and will be put on the web. So if you join us live, that will be there, but hey, it's okay. It's a friendly world out there. Um, I was wondering if anybody has any questions, thoughts, comments, um, to extend the conversation that we've been having with Claire today. Um, and if so, feel free to um, drop to share your question with us now. To bounce over to the gallery view. Don't be shy. It's okay.
I'd like to say I haven't holded up all my books, but they are all in print, all 15 of them. And the one I'd love to hold up that was one of my favorites is Nature All Year Long that I did for kids. And that's not an instruction book. That's what's happening in our backyard. And that was the one I learned tons about. And I use it a lot because many people think bears hibernate and they don't. So there. Go learn your stuff.
Ah,
Jack, you
but
know that.
marmots do.
Marmots do, yeah, pikas do,
Ah.
ground squirrels do. But why don't bears hibernate?
So actually, I think with the pikas, they're actually part of that. The idea of the big hay pile is that they are not dropping into a hibernation um, like the
Jack,
marmots are,
yeah.
but they are actually they can be active down there under the snow for part of the winter. And
That's
that's what
chipmunks. Yeah,
but chipmunks.
chipmunks are that way. They're deep sleepers.
That's right.
Whereas you know what wood frogs do?
Oh, do they kind of work their way down in the mud and kind of turn off their metabolism?
They freeze.
Oh,
They've got glycerol around their cells, so they don't die. The glycerol keeps the cells from freezing, but the rest of the body freezes. Ain't
Wow.
that cool?
That
You can
is,
take a frog out of the freezer and it will thaw out.
start hopping around the house.
Stop in the house. Yeah.
That is amazing. I mean, all these strategies that work. This
Yeah.
planet is just is absolutely beautiful.
Didn't
Uh,
you learn all this stuff when you did the Sierra Guide?
I bump into some of this stuff, and we don't have wood frogs over here. We
Yeah,
got
but
other.
you got frogs. You
We
got
do. We do have frogs. We do have
yeah.
frogs. I'm going to bring Linda into the conversation with us. Linda, thank you for being here, and you can now unmute. Hi there.
Hi there, good to see everybody. And I'm really excited about this interview with Claire.
Hi,
Um,
Linda.
I have this
That's
book,
it.
Oh, see.
yeah,
Thank you.
and it's really geared for kids, but hey, I bought it for myself.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering how many of your 15 books are geared for children? Is this the only one?
Oh boy, that's a good question because you know what I say to people is adults buy the book and adults read the book with kids. Well, the one that I really did for kids, so I was, what's it called? Um, The Nature Connection. It's a really a how-to book for kids, what to study month by month of the year. So it has
Oh,
natural history in it,
yeah.
but it also, yeah,
I
and
see
it's
somebody holding it up. Somebody's holding it up. Yeah, Elizabeth. Yeah.
yeah, it's been translated into a bunch of different languages. I do have to say that Keeping a Nature Journal was translated into Russian, and I'm really hoping that somebody gave it to Putin for a Christmas present.
I
Ha ha
think you
ha.
need. Well,
You're supposed to laugh.
no, I think that if we could get that fella to just spend some time in nature, looking at some flowers, it it does something. Nature generally does something to your brain that I think we all need.
Yeah,
That we all need.
yeah, we all do.
Yes.
Yeah. And but
Okay.
also things like this, talk about, I mean, just look at this. Does this look kid friendly to you? Let me tell you, Amelia and Carolyn, when this was on the counter, they scooped this thing right up and brought it into their rooms. I had to look around like, where is my how to look at a bird? Because I'm going to be talking with Claire soon, and found it over in their room. I mean,
Hey,
this
Jack,
is,
read the back acknowledgments because on the back, that page were the two drawings done by my granddaughters, Hazel and Lydia. And so they do a lot of drawing with me. And the acknowledgments, I have had such a great experience over many years working on books with the team at Story, especially with my editors. And now my granddaughters, Hazel and Lydia, join me in enjoying the world of birds. And you'll see a great horned owl, and then my
the
8-year-old.
boy turkey.
That's typical of her. I also felt it was really important to say, while I was writing and drawing for this book, my husband of many years passed. It has been a true solace to think about the lives of birds and to find moments to be outdoors with them. So a number of people have said to me, oh, I'm buying this for my kid, my granddaughter, my kids, whatever. I don't know. Kids grow up in their reading abilities pretty early. So try it out.
Yeah, and also if you think of like little Jack, so little Jack got a hold of this. So when I was small, I had this, and this isn't made for kids, but it is, the content of it is so dense with useful stuff that I was like, oh yeah, I'm I'm all about this. Um, and I look at, like what, like the way I learned to draw duck heads. Whoop, what? No, not there, right there. Ah, there it is. There's all these things that are like fundamental in my practice now. Take
But you know,
that out of here.
those were not my drawings. Those were drawings of, as an art historian, Jack, I heavily use the work of other people.
Yeah.
And I could not do that book today to get permission because I wrote these I wrote these museums in Europe. Hey, I'd like to reproduce that drawing. $10. So it is an art historical of value. And I don't know how I don't know how I wrote the book. I was only new to doing this drawing, but I had inculcated in me Eric Kenyon. So that book is verbatim Eric Kenyon.
That is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Linda, did was your question addressed?
Yes, it was. Thank you so much.
Thank
Glad
you.
to be here today.
I saw a moment ago that Chloe had a question. Comment, but I don't. Chloe, may we put you on? Put you on? All right. I'm going to add you into the spotlight. Chloe, it is great to see you again.
Good to see you too. I was wondering, we saw your cat earlier. Is it a he or she? If it's a
Looks a
she
lot
or-
like the cat is up in that picture there. He.
And then what's his name?
Do you know anything about the Marx Brothers? You're gonna have to ask your family. In our family, tradition was to name all the cats after Harpo,
Groucho.
and Groucho, not Groucho, no.
Never
Zeppo,
Groucho.
Chico, and this is the last. This is Zeppo.
This is Zeppo the cat.
Zeppo is named after one of the Marx Brothers. He actually didn't perform. And this cat, thank you for asking, because he's great company. He likes to sleep on my back and purrs, and I draw him a lot. I mean, he's the best. Jack, do you have any animals in your house?
This morning, as I was bringing Carolyn to school, she was saying, like, Dad, we really, really need a dog. We don't currently have any pets. I tried putting up little kind of identification labels, like they have in sort of zoos and museums, by some of the indoor spiders that have moved into our house, but the girls didn't feel that really counted.
Can't pat them.
That's right. You cannot pet the Fulcus phalangites. It's not the same as having a cat. Chloe, do you have any pets? Oh, well, that's right. We have so Penny is the owner of or the caretaker of the Loose Change Gang. Do you want to tell Claire about the Loose Change Gang?
So I had 3 mice. One of them unfortunately died though. But so when I had all of them, there was one little one. Her name was Penny. She's the one that died, but she was like a really brown one, kind of like a penny. And then I had a bigger one whose name was Dime because he was gray, and I have a black one who name is Nickel. Actually.
And Chloe helped us with a Nature Journal workshop where the Loose Change Gang came on and sort of played in front of us while we sketched them.
So so they're always good to draw your pets, even if they don't sit still. And I bet you're rats or mice.
Mice.
Oh,
This one?
Oh, they don't sit still, do they? But I love
Is this
drawing mice.
Dime?
Yeah, well, maybe when they're sleeping they do. All right.
That's great.
Good.
And Chloe, was that Dime?
Yes, that one was Dime.
That was
And
Dime.
then we also have 2 fish, a cat, and a dog.
Right.
The more the better. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yep, Chloe, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Bye-bye.
Um, and the if anybody has a question or a comment that you for Claire, wanted to give you an opportunity to do that now. And on not seeing that, Claire, I want to thank you again. First for just for being here today, but more profoundly for what you have chosen to give to this world in your life. You are doing things that make a difference, a profound difference for many, many people all over the globe.
You are too. I mean, I'd love to come out and teach with you again, Jack, because it's always fun to, do this side by side. I have an immediate question. Have you been to the Sibley Nature Center in Waxhaw?
In Waxhaw, I've
I
been
mean, Waco, in Waco,
not in Waco, near Midland.
Midlands.
Yes, Midland, Texas. So on the eclipse, the eclipse went right over Midland, and they invited me to come on down. We did a nature journaling class there.
Yep.
And what a wonderful little nature center. They've got all these like cool fossils and things that they find in the
Yes.
area.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool. And then the day after that, the annular eclipse went
Oh,
right over our head, and we got out there and celebrated it. And was a critical mass of sort of nature lovers out there. And at the height of the annular eclipse, we all ran and we looked under these trees, because every little place where light
yes.
came down through a little hole in the trees,
Yeah.
there were then all these rings that were just dancing like this.
Right. He asked me to come out and teach, and it was during COVID. And I just, it was easier. I'm so glad you went, because with David ill, it just was such a trek. And I have really cut back in teaching, and I want to say with a mixture, and Erica, if she's still listening, it's with a mixture of pride and joy, and like, hey, I want to be doing that. You know, Jack, we are passing on the baton, and I just want to be very clear, though, that whoever is teaching nature journaling understands the definition, because it has a very strong tradition that goes way, way back. And I would like to say I coined the term, but the term existed all the way back in the history of anybody going on a scientific voyage. Brought illustrators. Darwin did. On his honeymoon, he brought illustrators. So it's a tradition that I'm thrilled that you are carrying. This is not just a craft. It's not just something to do because you can't do anything else. It's a study.
It is a study of this wild and precious life that we get to briefly experience. And the more that we are intentional about it, then the details of those moments get to seep into our brains and our hearts and our minds in such a profoundly different way.
And I just want to tell you, I've had to be constantly moving because of the sun. I teach a lot about the position of the sun in relation to the earth. We are nearing the equinox, and I can't work at my desk after a certain hour of the day. And so nature is with you, whether you will like it or not, because right now I'm annoyed by it.
Oh, yeah, I have to keep kind of bouncing around your room. Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that I really love in your journals. You always sort of are thinking about sort of where you are in the cycle of the seasons and the year. And
Essential.
you're one of the few people I know who at any point in time, you could say to Clare Walker Leslie, what phase is the moon in right now? And most people won't know.
Yeah.
And you will. I got up last night at 2 in the morning and went out to look at the moon. And there's this big this an almost full, this
Yes,
waxing gibbous.
gibbous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was just
Yeah.
beautiful out there. But you always know.
Well, you know, the wonderful thing is that waxing gibbous over the Gaza, over Kiev. Talking to my sister in Japan, we share the same full moon. We share those same phases everywhere in the world. A little child in Palestine can look up and see that waxing gibbous.
Yeah, there's a Tom Waits song called Singapore. Oh no, Shore Leave, um, where he is sort of is imagining being this sailor, and he's looking up at this moon and knowing that the same moon shines down somewhere on his love and finds her there.
I don't know if everybody knows, maybe different from Jack, but in my teaching and in my own journal, this is the format I use. It's first the date, then the place, then the weather, then the time of day, and then the sunrise and sunset, and then the phase of the moon. That starts the page. And when I am teaching people who don't know anything about nature, it's so cool to say, okay, place, where are you in relation to, you know, your state, the states above, the states below. Often we draw a map, and who lives in your state with you? The plants, the birds, the animals. And teachers will say, oh, our kids don't know anything about nature. Of course they do. Out come, oh dear, daffodils, maple trees, ladybugs. That's how I begin the journal. And I've been doing this for 40 years and I haven't changed. So that's the format. Date, place, time, weather. And it's also what the scientists used as well. They had to. And I'll ask participants, why the date? Well, duh. Why the place? Why the time?
Mhm.
Why the weather? Why all of this? And so, yes, Jack, I have an almanac that I am going by. And when, you know, when the shortest day of the year hit, I was writing it down. And now we are here. The sun is setting after 5.
It's
And
so cool that you know, like I wouldn't be able to say the phase of the moon, but to say like exactly when the sun is setting, that's 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 very cool.
well, the other thing that's cool about it, Jack, is if participants do this, line up in the Western, and I first did this in the airport, line up something vertical, whether it's a building or, you know, a plane fin. Watch how the sun sets. It does not set straight down.
Mhm.
It sets at an angle. Why? Despite all the horrors of the world, we are moving. This little planet. And the moon doesn't rise straight up. It rises at an angle.
Yeah. And the whole idea of, you know, the general idea that rises in the east and sets in the west. Okay, twice a year it does that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then the
Right,
rest of the
right.
time it's off of that a little bit.
Exactly.
And all
Yeah,
those things, that just sort of ties us into sort of where we are on this little spinning rock with the
right.
other spinning rock going around it. And that's a useful perspective. That's a useful perspective.
Yeah, and I do this thing, I call it the fried egg. I have kids draw this in their journals.
Okay, I'm
And
gonna get my fried egg on. Talk to me about it.
here's your fried egg. In the center is the sun, and the edge of the fry is the circle of the earth.
Okay.
And then, of course, the earth is on an axis, and you have them doing that axis and the equator. And at the winter solstice, the axis goes like that. And then it goes all the way around, and it's still that axis, but in the other side, it's facing the sun. And so this is in all of my books. it's an understanding of why the sun is moving differently all the time. And then, of course, if you want to get into it, it's so cool. What is the moon doing? Because the full moon rises in the far north in the winter as the sun rises in the far south. That goes into all kinds of, get your physicist friends to help you out with that one. Because the moon is also moving. And you're right, we have another solar eclipse coming up.
Yes, and so folks in Texas are really lucky because they got both of these. They got the annular and then the total solar eclipse that'll be going through there. But this next eclipse, there's not going to be another total solar eclipse for a long time. So if you have any opportunity to do that, the word on the street, I have never been under a total solar eclipse. I was just outside the edge of the totality on the last one, went up to Oregon and then went all the way there, but we couldn't get ourselves under because of traffic. But this time, our family is going to be staying in a house in Texas, and waiting for that eclipse to pass right over us. So
I have it in Your Nature Memoir of Solace. I was in Vermont on a lake with a friend when it happened. And the loons didn't know what to do because all of a sudden it got dark. It was very
that's the
funny.
thing now. Yeah.
But you remember, this was back when Donald Trump refused to wear the glasses. Everybody else did. It was very moving because it really unified so many thousands of people watching that eclipse with glasses on.
Yeah.
And we watched it. It's dramatic. You'll have fun.
I'm looking forward to this. I've seen the little crescents, but now
Yes.
I'm going to get to see the totality. That's going to be very interesting. It's a beautiful planet, and the more we understand it, the more that our brains can kind of geek out about these sorts of things. Like one of the things that we've done on solstices and equinoxes is kind of had these sort of, sun watching parties online, where we're measuring lengths of shadows and sticks and all these sorts of things.
Yes.
We were able to figure out how to calculate our latitude, how to measure the circumference of the Earth, and just all sorts of, and the tilt of the axis. We're able to measure the tilt of the axis of the Earth by looking at measurements of shadows. And so, yeah, this is fun. And that also lets us do math in a way that is
Yes.
so
Yes. Yes. When you go into a school, you have to justify for the curriculum. There is math involved. While you're talking, Jack, I just want to tell you a really moving story I'll never forget. I was doing a residency in a city school here. This is a bunch of 8th graders. I was able to be with them fall, winter, and spring. They have these hefty journals, why study nature? They were doing it at home. I came in one Monday morning and the class was looking in very sad shape. And the teacher told me that one of their classmates, a good friend, had drowned in a local pond over the weekend. And I said, I'll go home right away. She said, no, it's so important. The best thing you can do is take them. This is 8th graders. These are, Huffy Duffy kids. Best thing you can do is take them outside.
Yeah.
And, teachers say, oh, the kids are going to run around crazy. No, they do not. It is a treasure hunt. It is a Where's Waldo? They want to find this stuff. And we went over to a hedge, just a regular hedge that was facing the morning sun. There were a whole bunch of sparrows in it. And I watched these 8th grade boys, absolutely silent, curious, watching house sparrows. It's easy peasy. I mean, I don't have a science degree. It's just, wild wonder. That's what it is. And you can catch anybody. I caught these college students looking at the Cooper's hawk. it's you know, it's a pretty, here I was in Brooklyn. Oh, Jack, you've been to New York, right? Here we are doing this walk along the edge of Brooklyn facing the East River. And there's the Statue of Liberty in the distance, who I told you earlier I'm smitten by. And in the foreground were 4 brant geese. Now, I think of brant geese as being over in saltwater, you know, on the ocean side.
Nibbling
Here they,
seagrass. Yeah.
huh?
They're supposed to be over there nibbling seagrass somewhere.
Yeah, well, they were nibbling. Only it was the seaweed on the former wharf pilings down on the docks of the Brooklyn Bridge. So nature's everywhere.
Yeah. Nature is everywhere. It is where we can go for solace. It is where we can go for connection, using it as a way to come together in community and motivate us to protect this beautiful planet. These are all reasons why we journal and why we do this together. And
Yep.
again, I want to thank you for your mentorship into this large and growing community around the world of people who are doing this practice.
And Jack, if people want to email me, I should give you my website, or maybe they have it. It's www.clare, no I, CLAREWALKER, Walker, my husband's name, LESLIE.com. I don't do Facebook. I don't do Instagram. I don't do, you know, Twitter, blah, 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 you know, because I didn't grow up using it.
Probably the closest you get to tweeting is when you go psh, 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 psh.
Exactly.
The birds are there.
You get it. But I do answer emails extensively. I do. So if people want to send me, you know, pictures of their journal pages, love to see it.
We
And
will.
Jack, have me come out to California,
You want
and
to come play again?
I'd love to come play
All right.
again.
All right, let's
I've
talk
been-
and we will hook that up.
Yeah, I've been, you know, really phobic about leaving anywhere because of the last few years, but I'm going to Costa Rica, so I guess I'm emerging.
There
Yeah,
you go. Well, we look forward to seeing you over here on this coast. If you
have
already
me
live
come.
on
I will come.
All right.
We'll draw together.
We'll make something happen. I really will look forward to that. It'll be wonderful to see you again. And want to thank my co-host, Avea Moore. Can I bring you into the
Sure thing. Also, I'd seen one more participant raising their hand earlier,
Oh,
Heather. So I wanted to make sure, would it be okay if we give Heather a chance to talk?
sure. Heather, before we wrap here, if you would like to find. Hey there. Heather, you are live with Clare Walker Leslie.
I just want to thank you
Hi,
both
Heather.
for this workshop. Hi, Claire. This has been one of my favorite workshops, but you guys ended it on such an uplifting note. I almost hate to bring this up. This is a book called The Lost Words.
Oh, I know it well. Yes, 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 yes. Good for you.
The most
Love
recent
McFarlane.
edition of the Oxford Junior Dictionary, widely used in schools around the world, was published, and a sharp-eyed reader soon noticed that around 40 common words concerning nature had been dropped,
Yep. Yep.
no longer being used.
We're not the only country concerned about this.
So they wrote, this is Robert McFarlane, and he and Jackie Morris wrote a book about the 20 of those 40 birds and wrote them spells to try and bring the words back into the dictionary. It's a beautiful book. The illustrations are beautiful. Unfortunately, such a sobering thought.
You know, England is having perhaps as many problems as we are having because of the loss. But Jack, please bring up, it's happening in England, it's happening in Poland, it's happening in this country. It's called rewilding. And every country is, in Poland, they are bringing back, oh gosh, is the mountain lion? I can't remember, but England is very aware of this loss.
Mhm.
So thank you, because they have gone on, and there's now a singing group called Songlines. It's
Yeah.
performing their words. Yeah, yeah, that book is not a dead end by any means.
It's so important, the work that you and Jack have been doing, and this just goes to show that, you know, you can't stop this work. It just has to keep going.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
that's absolutely right, Heather. Um, and what's another part of this is that the work itself is joyful.
Yeah,
The
we're laughing a lot, right?
we get
Right.
to laugh a lot. So to come into community, to go out into nature, as we do this, it feeds us. It feeds us, and together we grow into fun selves, as they yeah, with humor, with love, with gratitude. And in that, Avea, I want to express my gratitude to you for your help in nurturing this community. Clare Walker Leslie, your mentorship and generosity of spirit and mind, and you know, to everybody who's watching this, I want to just remind all of us that we have the capacity to make a difference for the better. And you know, one of my I just was in a used bookstore, and I picked up a copy of Beowulf, because why not? And
Yeah, why not?
and also a copy of Dickens' Christmas Carol, and was
Yeah,
I
yeah.
went right to one of my favorite parts, where you know, Marley's ghost has kind of gone out the window with all these ghosts who have lost their ability as sort of souls on the earth to make a difference for the better. And they now are sort of seeing the opportunities that they could have had to have done something, to have intervened, to be of help in this world. And right now, while we are all above ground, we have that opportunity. And what a blessing that
Hey,
is.
Jack, I require you with your kids and all 99, whatever of you, go get the Muppets Christmas Carol. It is the best. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh my God. Yeah,
The
yeah,
story
yeah.
is
You with
the story.
Michael Caine. Michael Caine is Scrooge,
Interesting.
and it is required. It's the Muppets.
Uh,
It's still
my dad used to read Christmas Carol to our family every Christmas, and so the book has a particular resonance for me.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
Mm.
so thank you all, and uh, I look forward to this continuing conversation with all of you.
And Jack, I'll blab again sometime if you want me to. I have endless conversations I could have with you.
Well, this was really fun, Claire. This was really fun.
Notice the sun is now shifted. I'm no longer blocked by it.
That's right. That's right. A little cloud has positioned itself just to protect you.
No, 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 no. We have moved.
Ah, I like the way you
Still a
said the sun
good
hasn't moved.
day.
That's right.
The moon, I mean the sun has just it's in a different position. It's not moving. We're moving.
That's right. So until next time, dear friends, be kind, play in nature, share with generosity, and together we are making a difference. In times of despair, in times of grief, to go to nature and to go to the community of a loving community of people. We really need this at this time. So let's look for ways to connect with the natural world and to support each other.
Jack, quickly, are you is your community of people from all over the country? Are people
All over the world.
another time, I'd love to know where people are beaming in from. I'm in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh, well, hey, let's just do this. Everybody drop into the chat. Where are you coming in from? We've got, let's see, 54 people currently online. Put it into chat, hit send. And let's show Clara
Germany.
where we're coming in from.
New Hampshire, Franconia, California, California, Oregon, Ohio, Michigan.
And Antarctica last week, and Chadwick with her penguin. So that counts as all continents being
Portland, Oregon,
London.
London.
Yeah,
Woohoo!
Toronto, great to see you.
Um,
And so yeah, so this is a worldwide community.
that's so cool, Jack. I hope you go to bed at night hugging yourself saying, I did it. Another day.
It's a community project,
Yeah,
and
that's
we
right.
did it
And
together.
you said somebody from the Antarctic?
Well, we had there's a Anne Chadwick, we can bring you in, who is with Point Blue Conservation Science, this amazing science organization that does research that informs conservation decisions. Anne Chadwick was just in Antarctica with her with part of her team there last week.
Oh, you brought a penguin home.
Yes, I was lucky enough to be in Antarctica for a very short time, but our group, the Point Blue Conservation Science, has been researching Adelie penguins in Antarctica for, well, since 1996. And part of our research led to the marine protected area, which is the largest in the world, bigger than the size of Texas. And so that's just one tiny example of what we do. And it was a privilege to be there and hanging out with the penguins and whales and everybody else and learning a lot more about what Point Blue's been doing there. So, and I just
think
want
you
to say, now we're representing all 7 continents on this call. So.
I think your report, I've read about it because Adelies are doing well, right?
They have been. They are sea ice obligate, and the sea ice in the Ross Sea where we're studying them has just started to decline, and so we're just starting to see a decline there. But it held up for longer than the rest of the continent, so Adelies were actually on a growth curve when others were suffering. So we'll see what the next few years bring, but so far they've been thriving.
Yeah. So and all of us, we're all part of Team Penguin. So the work which we do to protect and conserve this planet, you know, that's working for the ones in the little snappy suits.
Great. So was there somebody from Germany? Did I see?
Yes, I think I saw Germany.
There's a lovely lady from Japan who's been following you and following me. I don't know if she participates.
Yeah. And then a bunch of folks will be watching this online.
Yeah.
So we're now going to close off so people can continue about their day. Claire, thank you so much for spending this time with us. You have inspired generations and continue to do so.
Well, Jack, this isn't the one and only time.
Right. This is far from over.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Take care, everyone.
Shalom, 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 blessings, peace, etc., etc., etc. Be well.
Be well.